malcolmx movie. So, a tribute to the controversial black activist and leader of the struggle for black liberation. Bottom during his imprisonment in the 50s. He became a black Muslim and then a leader of the Nation of Islam. His assassination in 1965 left a legacy of self-determination and racial pride. I don't know why that's supposed to be the summary of the movie. This movie is, as we know, one of those films that most, if not all of us, has all seen or have heard about or have talked about. And if you don't know who this man is, then I really don't know what to tell you, but go learn about something because it would be embarrassing if you didn't. So, Malcolm Little, who soon becomes Malcolm X after he ends up in prison due to his criminal activity, the drugs he has done, is, as we know, one of the most influential leaders of the time. Until this day. First off, this film starts off with the portal of racism. Malcolm was bullied by his teachers, basically told that since he was a Negro, he was only fit for specific job types by grown adults to call racial slurs, and his family had been harassed and bullied by KKK members, which should and needs to be illegal. I don't even know why they still exist. By the way, let alone banned. Not only is it a hate crime, but they commit death, genocide, and continue the cycle of trauma. Those people are cowards. Now, we do get to watch the trajectory of his character development for Malcolm X and his cockiness transform into pride. But one very important thing I noticed in this film was the so-called Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I say so-called because he had all these wives out of wedlock, and then when Malcolm confronted him, he tried to make excuses for it and use Malcolm X, basically. Then had the nerve, I think at one point, to try to just brush him off to the side, like he took all of his glory, basically. Malcolm did literally all of the work. Worst part was that the guy who he met in prison who helped him find his way turned out to be a jealous snake. They're the ones too, the ones closest to you every time in these films. They never fail. But the crazy part about this is that it happened in real life. Better watch. He played in Malcolm X's face and behind his back, and everyone involved who wasn't right for him or did not show up for him is at fault or should be. Like, every single one of them. Without his wife, Malcolm would have been following the quote-unquote Honorable Elijah Muhammad blindly till he died, probably. And I think when he was finally able to release himself from the shackles of that cult, he started to become free. I can't imagine all of the pain and suffering his wife went through, though. I would not want to nor be able to handle all of that. They were getting threatening calls, etc., and not to mention the burden she carried. X got to see the world through his own eyes and not be a puppet taking orders and living through another man's mind. We gotta be real here. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a terrible person. Even just for that reason I mentioned, and you could see the hurt and the betrayal it had on Malcolm and how it affected him. There were moments where he just held in his pain and disdain to smack the table in frustration, and even then, after a while, for a bit, he still stuck around until he met those women. I question if the reason that the guy or so-called brother from the prison became envious is because of his father figure type of connection Malcolm had towards the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and that's that jealousy is rooted, but it doesn't even matter because they were dead wrong. The worst part about this is that he was set up and murdered by his own so-called brothers and his own people. It doesn't matter who paid them, but or not, because they made the choice still to do what they did and involve themselves in it too, in front of his wife and children. So even Malcolm knew his day had come, and he still went out there due to the expectation of the people, but he knew something was off. And one thing that really bothered me, he spoke, I believe outside in Harlem, was it? I'm not sure. Someone questioned him or said he wouldn't do something, and I thought, how are they gonna stand here and lecture him about what he will and won't do? I think it's when the one guy was arrested or something happened. But anyways, how are they going to lecture him when they aren't doing anything but yelling? Meanwhile, he's doing all this work. And I also thought the expectation also, like, if he would have maybe decided to do it another day, even one of his friends that came like, well, you're not feeling well, maybe we should do another day. But again, the expectation of the people really gave him that drive to be like, no, I'm gonna like keep going and go back out there. It is easy to complain basically when you are on the other end. People deserved him, especially his cult. Some of them, they were loyal and true friends, ride or die, but most of them were snakes. Elijah Muhammad was an old pimp sitting there like he did something. He was just a fraud, and that bedazzled bling hat grinning. Sorry, but the man is a scam artist, and he was. I even watched some interviews Mecca Malcolm, And you could see how passionate he was about his teachings and how loyal he was to that man and his word, etc. And he spent a large percentage of his young adult life believing in another man who was nothing but a floozy.